Alexander Show is celebrating the 20th anniversary of Janet Jackson's phenomenal album, The Velvet Rope, by speaking to the people who were involved with the album and the world tour. We're very happy to welcome musician Darrell Smith to the show, who performed with Janet during the Velvet Rope tour playing the keys and has continued to have a successful career in music, including working with artists like Mary J. Blige, Pink, Elton John, Stevie Wonder, Jay-Z, Cher, Lionel Richie, and the list goes on and on. Darrell, thank you so much for joining us on the Kelly Alexander Show.
Oh, thank you so much.
So,
glad to be here.
I wanted to start off by asking you, was a career in music always sort of where you were headed as a kid?
Yes, since the age of 5.
Awesome. What instruments did you take up right away? The piano, I guess?
Yep, just the piano. I played a little saxophone in middle school, but it's always been the piano that I've been gravitated towards.
And what would you consider to be your first big break in the industry?
Anita Baker tour in 1988.
Fantastic. And how did that come about?
I had moved to L.A. in 83. I went to USC for graduate school, and I was just playing around town, small clubs here and there, jazz clubs, and a drummer, discovered me playing with a particular group and said, "Hey, man, would you be interested in auditioning for Anita Baker?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And the person that I was auditioning with was George Duke. And I was lucky enough and talented enough to get the gig.
And so when you went from Anita, what was the next big thing, and was that Janet?
No, the next big thing after that was Sheena Easton.
Okay, cool.
And that was in 89. And Janet didn't happen until 93. So I went back out with Anita, and then I actually went out on tour with Paula Abdul before I went out with Janet.
And how did you sort of come into Janet's mind frame? Like, how did she end up finding out about you?
She had this, I wouldn't say it was a cattle call audition, but she had like 6 or 7 bands that were put together to audition for her Janet tour in 93. And I got singled out. Me and this other guy got singled out to play keys for her on the Janet tour, so it was kind of like a playoff. And again, I was lucky and talented enough to have gotten the gig with Janet on that Janet tour in 93.
Now, when you went out with her, obviously things I'm sure went very well, and when time came around for the Velvet Rope in 98, was it in your mind something that you thought would come to you again? Because we know that Janet likes to sort of bring around the same people if she can, not all the time, but a fair amount of the time. So did you expect to maybe get a call for Velvet Rope?
I didn't really expect to get a call. I mean, in the back of my mind it was there, but I was pleasantly surprised when I did, when it was, because I had left to do Anita again, to tour with Anita, and the Janet tour hadn't ended yet. So I was replaced, and I thought, okay, well, you know, I made that decision, so it's possible that I will not get called for the Velvet Rope tour, but luckily I was.
And do you remember how that went down, Darrell? Like, who gave you the call? Was it Rex? Was it Janet or Renee?
It was Rex.
Okay.
It was Rex. And I remember just literally screaming at the top of my lungs when I did get that call from Rex saying that, "Hey, man, would you be interested in going out on tour with Janet again?" I said, "Give me a second." And that's when I went somewhere and screamed. And then I came back calmly and I said, "Yes, I would love to do it."
That's awesome. Now, can you talk to us about sort of putting that band together? I know you'd obviously worked with Rex before, and I believe Terry, but were there similar people, I think, and maybe even Sam Sims, right, had played on the Janet tour as well? Yeah,
and so did Dave Barry. And Stacey Campbell was there as well. So I think those were pretty much the band from Janet tour was put together for the Velvet Rope tour.
Oh, and I guess Little John too, right? Because he had taken over for Jonathan at one point.
Yeah, Little John took over from Sugarfoot. I'm not sure when he came on. I wasn't on the gig on the Janet. That's when I left when he showed up.
Okay, cool.
And so I was looking forward to playing with him because I heard so many good things about his playing. So the Velvet Rope was my first tour with Little John playing drums.
Can you talk to us about sort of how the first initial steps came? Like, obviously you'd played with a bunch of these people before. Did you sort of just slip back into old shoes, if you will, when you were putting together the set list and how things were going to roll out?
Yeah, see, the whole creative process. That's a very interesting question. I think Tina would be able to, and Rex could answer that way better than I could. I know that we rehearsed as a band most of what we did on the Janet tour, and then started bringing in the Velvet Rope pieces towards the end of that rehearsal process, if my memory serves me right. It was really a short process when the band got together because we had such a head start on all the other stuff from the Control album and the Rhythm Nation album. We knew all that stuff. It was just sort of, refreshing and just getting it all back in muscle memory mode. But when we heard the Velvet Rope stuff, that was, first of all, we knew that was going to be a great album, but it had its challenges. So, I think Tina and Rex can give you a better idea on the step-to-step, day-to-day creative process on how the set list was created.
Joining us on the Kelly Alexander Show is musician Darrell Smith, and you can follow him on Instagram and on Facebook at @DLaRaSmith. So, Darrell, can you talk to us about the Velvet Rope itself with regards to the album? Had you already heard the full album by the time you guys sort of sat down for rehearsal, and what is your favorite piece to play from that album?
That's the Way Love Goes was my favorite piece. Yeah, we listened to the whole album from stem to stern, and we just knew, oh my God, Jimmy and Terry just killed it. We loved everything. Lonely. Was Rope Burn on Velvet Rope?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I remember us playing that and just losing our mind. And all the other tunes were just so funky. Jimmy and Terry just really did a great job on that album.
I wanted to ask you how Janet is in your mind as a musician, because obviously people talk about her the most when it comes to her dancing skills and not so much when it comes to her as a vocalist and a musician. What's your take on her?
She is probably one of the funkiest, vocally, rhythmically, and tonal. She's got a beautiful voice. Let's just start there. And, you get caught up in the dance moves, but she can really sing, and she sings beautifully. But she's got a pocket that is just, it's just like, the Jacksons, like Michael Jackson had the same thing. You can't really describe it in words. They just have this rhythmic genius about them, whether they're dancing or singing.
I would agree. Yeah, 100%. 100%. And how is Janet as a boss and leader?
One of the most beautiful human beings that I know of. Sweet, compassionate, conscientious, fun, great laugh, likes to tease, can be a practical joker. What better boss could you possibly ask for?
That's awesome. And when it came time to sort of putting both the dance and the band together, I know that, like you'd said, Rex and Tina probably had to work hand in hand to sort of make sure everything was going well. What did it feel like when you sort of hit the stage for the first time with the Velvet Rope? Like, did you guys feel in a great place?
I mean, we were so excited before we hit the stage when we were in production rehearsals and when we finally did dress rehearsals and seeing all the costumes and the production of the tour. Before we even played a note in front of an audience, we were already just head over heels over the production value of that tour. We didn't know that we were going to be a part of history, cultural history, but we just felt like something was special about this particular tour and this particular group of people.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the HBO special? Because obviously that was fairly groundbreaking at the time. I know HBO was the big thing at the time, and it was really huge to be able to sort of have your own special and have it be live. Was there added anticipation / stress when you guys were getting ready for that night?
There was so much stress, and I've done a few since then, and it still doesn't get any easier. I mean, you just put yourself under a microscope. As far as you're playing, because you don't want to make a mistake, and it's live, but it's taped. I mean, they can make necessary changes because they do it over like a 2-day show, like 2 shows. They tape 2 shows, so hopefully you can get one out of the 2, and hopefully you don't make the same mistake in the same show, on separate shows. So, but it is an exhilarating, nerve-wracking experience.
I can only
and
imagine.
that's putting it lightly.
And by that point, too, I know you guys had been out on the road for a long time, so I'm sure in a way it was second hat. But having like Q-Tip come out and perform with you guys and being in front of that New York audience, what did it feel like, Darrell, being a part of that?
Oh, the energy whenever I play in New York, it's always off the charts as far as the energy level and the electricity in the building. But when Q-Tip came out, and it was like, I wish I could have just stopped in time and just lived that moment over and over again.
I think a lot of us would have, so I totally understand where you're coming from on that. And, I wanted to get your take as well. Like, I know you've played with so many other artists that I named off the top, and you've had a very successful career. I wanted to know, though, with all these other tours you've done and all these other artists you've worked with, do you find that Janet's fans are just kind of different? It just feels that way to me. Obviously, I'm one of them, but I've also interviewed a bunch of other artists, and it just feels like Janet definitely has something special when it comes to her fandom.
I think there is a difference in her fandom. I think it's because of her. She really genuinely wants to reach every single fan that's out there in the audience. And I think the fans pick up on that. I think she wants a genuine connection with her fans. I don't think there's anything disingenuous about how she wants to connect with her fans. And she's really one of the artists that just really inspires me as far as how she can make that connection, as shy as she can be at times, She generally makes that connection with her fans, and the fans get it. And there's nothing like a Janet Jackson fan. I haven't come across any. I mean, I've done a lot of tours, and a Janet Jackson fan, stands out.
And I wanted to get your thoughts on what you would like to maybe say to, Janet fans right now, because so many of them are obviously very excited that it is the 20th anniversary of the Velvet Rope. And, I know that, yes, Janet was sort of the focal point of everything, but, we all know who was in the band. We all know the dancers. You guys were famous kind of in your own right. So what do you want to say to the fans 20 years later?
Oh, man, that's a very good question. Well, first of all, I just want to thank them for being loyal and gracious fans, and I think a certain amount of gratitude, because let's just face it, we couldn't do it without the fans, and we certainly love looking out into the audience and seeing faces that are engaged and smiling. And I would have to just say, I just would keep it simple and say, thank you so much for your support and your love. And to this day, I'm sure there's still fans that are still alive that had seen the Velvet Rope tour that are just as engaged as they were then.
Fantastic. And Darrell, I did want to ask you too, I'm not sure when the last time it was that you actually spoke to Janet, but what message would you want to give to her on this 20th anniversary of such a seminal album?
That I love her dearly. And I saw her just before she announced that she was pregnant when she was here in Atlanta. And we just talked and had a great time. And I just want to, just tell her that, I love her, and I'm so proud of her. This tour that she's on now, she is killing it. At the age of 50 and being a new mom, she just has this beaming quality about her now. That's just, I'm jealous. I actually want to be on stage with her now. So tell her to call me, and so we can go back out on the road.
Perfect. Well, we're going to put that out in the universe, that's for sure. And Darrell, thank you. So, before I let you go, though, I did want to ask, where can fans find you now? What are you working on so they can catch up with you?
Well, I'm going to be leaving for Australia. I'm playing with Stevie Nicks now. She's one of the singers in Fleetwood Mac. And I'm also playing with Cher. And I just finished up with Cher like a month ago. But I hopefully will have an opportunity to work with her next year, because she's going to continue her residency in Vegas and in D.C. But the most current thing I'll be doing is I'll be on a plane for 26 hours flying to Sydney with Stevie Nicks for a month.
Awesome. Well, good luck with that. And on behalf of the Janet fans, just thank you so much for everything you did with Janet on the multiple tours. And I'll have you back on the show to talk about the Janet tour again, if I can do that with you. And just thank you so much. The Velvet Rope was special to so many of us, and it wouldn't have been the same if it wasn't for the players involved. So thank you.
No, thank you for this opportunity for me to share.
That is a musician, Darrell Smith. Make sure to check him out on Facebook and Instagram at @DLaRossmith. Hey, it's Kelly, and I just want to take a moment to thank you so much for all of the support that you continue to show The Kelly Alexander Show and our latest program, Just Dance, that I co-host with award-winning choreographer Tina Landon. We've been having so much fun on Just Dance, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. We've done interviews with Brian and Scott Nicholson, who work with Ariana Grande, RJ and Nick, who work with Pink and Katy Perry, Luther Brown, who works with our girl Janet Jackson, and the list goes on. And we also have many surprises coming for you in this coming year. So please sign up and join us to have lots of fun. hy.page/Kelly Alexander Show, our YouTube channel as well, youtube.com/Kelly Alexander Show, and our newsletter, which is kellyalexandershow.com/subscribe.